Well, hello, 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 and welcome to 2023. Oh my God. Hello, hello. Welcome again to 2023. Happy New Year to everybody, and welcome to Self Care Saturdays. We are back. Oh my goodness. It felt like an eternity that we have not been here. Of course, you know who I am. For those of you who don't know, let me introduce myself. My name is Allison Watley. I am the founder and the owner of the Healing Oasis Services, which is responsible for bringing this program to you today. You are viewing, those of you that are viewing this in our specific group or private group, if you will, welcome and thank you so much for being such great members and for holding it down and with me and for being with me. If you're viewing this on YouTube, welcome, welcome to my channel. Of course, you can share this, share it, please, I beg, share it. So Self Care Saturdays essentially began sometime last year when the group was formed, and you're going to hear a little bit more about what this is about. But Self Care Saturday, just want to say thank you to all the persons that graced this platform, enabling us to hear a little bit about how they do self care. I know a lot of times mental health and wellness is a very tough or a hard pill for most people to swallow. So it is easier to plate it or to make it easy for you now to take care of yourself. If you ever are in a plane and traveling, one of the things that they usually say is if we are in any form of crisis and the mask were to drop, put that mask on your face first before you can help anybody else. And so self-care is not selfish at all. Today, we have a special guest, and we are going to do what we do best, which is to host that guest, right? And she is a friend of mine. We went to school together and we happen to be sister girls. We go out to eat and fellowship quite a bit, and she is a phenomenal individual. I know that you will enjoy spending time with her as I usually enjoy spending time with her. Now, if you are in form of any crisis at the moment, or if you are watching this and you're feeling any type of way, please understand that there is always help. There is always someone somewhere to get help. And so we don't want you to suffer in silence. The Healing Oasis is a place, a business, a place where we do counseling of all types. So you can always call the number that's on that screen, and we'll hear a little bit more about that as we go along. But help me welcome my friend, my guest, one of my besties, one of my girlfriends, Alexandra Bastion. Hello, my dear.
Hello. Hi, Allie. How are you?
I am so good. I'm so good. So thank you for joining and being the first person to be with me for Self Care Saturdays of 2023. Now, guys,
Woo!
I know I told you guys that we're in for a little bit of a treat. I am going to pass the buck to Alex. I call her Alex. So, Alex, I'm throwing the host the host role to you, and today she gets the privilege or the honor, I don't know if it is,
It
to
is.
question to, to interview me. And I thought it was important for you to understand why, how, who I am, and what I do. So you have an opportunity today to ask questions, as you always do. You have an opportunity to just be here and share. And we have some people that are in the chat that is making comments. I apologize. Hi, Ingrid. Hi, Nikki. Hello, hello, hello. Of course, with StreamYard, guys, I'm using StreamYard for the platform. StreamYard does not give us your name if you have not given them the authority to do so. But yours truly, the hostess of the mostest, who is passing on the mantle just for today. You know, a little bit territorial, so I'm passing only for today. Is going to tell her who is viewing, okay? And who is hi Ingrid. Hello, 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 hello. So before without further ado, I'm going to pass my lovely wand over to Miss Alex. I call her Alex, guys, and she's going to first tell us a little bit about herself, and she has the floor. She's your host for today, and I am your subject.
Ooh, Allison, I am so honored actually that you asked me to do this because, our time together is part of my self care. And we
Oh,
spend time together and talk to each other. So it's so wonderful to be part of your self-care Saturdays and your first one of the new year, 2023. Woo woo. So I'm Alexandra Bastien. A lot of folks call me Alex. And
Yes.
I am a licensed mental health counselor. And I also do trainings at this time within child welfare. So that's just a little bit about me. I also love to do things like travel all the time
Oh,
and some other things too. I do like to have balance to have a good quality of life and keep those self care things and practices going. So I'm so glad you honored me to be the one to interview you in a sense and let our audience get to know who you are for a bit. So I'm going to start with this. Allison, what even made you kind of go into the mental health field and begin the Healing Oasis?
Whew. That's a very, very great question. And every time I'm asked that, or even I think about it personally, it is a wild story in the sense that I never, ever anticipated that this would be something that I would be doing. I always wanted to do numbers. Well, obviously, if you know
Yes.
anything about me, I am an accountant. I did my bachelor's and major is an accountant, and I still work in that field.
Mhm.
And I think there was a part of me at some point, I think around 2010, 2010, that just started to feel. First, I was pursuing an MBA. I wanted to do an MBA, but I did not want to do the GMAT or whatever it was that
Oh,
was
yeah.
needed or required. So
Yes.
my quest was to find a school that did not require me to do the GMAT at the time, and there was no school that was coming up. So I went to a church event. I'm also a Christian, of course, and I went to a church event at another a church, and they were hosting schools. They were hosting. I think they had something like a career day or something like that. And NIAC,
Ah,
our
yes.
former college, was one of the people that were presenting. And one of the things that um, they said is they have a master's degree program. I just knew I needed to do a master's. It was apropos that I would do the accounting or GMAT or something of that nature. But
Okay.
of course, like I said, I didn't want to do the GMAT. So when they said that they had an accounting, I'm sorry, they had a master's degree program that would require nothing. I didn't have to do
Oh,
any qualification outside of some sort of psychological evaluation. But I
that.
didn't know that then. But when they were presenting, that's what they said. And that dawned on me. But even before that, I started to feel a sense of wanting to give back more,
Hmm.
wanted to, do more for people, wanted to be more supportive, wanted to be more help, particularly for people within my community. I
Okay.
am West Indian, and a lot of times we deal with Trinidadian, of course.
Yeah.
We deal with a lot of what are issues and stuff like that, and we never seek any form of help. So I always wanted, and I thought then that I wanted to do something more church related, and yes, I do. But as they presented themselves, they kind of captured me. Funny enough, they captured me with not having extra credits to do in order to get into the program. So that's where it began for me, studying mental health. And while in the program, I realized even for myself
Mhm.
that I had some broken pieces. I had some broken areas that needed help, and that's where the Healing Oasis. God gave me this business name. I always thought it would be like a holistic center, and of course that's still in the works. But never did I think for a moment I would be doing mental health or counseling of this nature at all.
Well, what surprises you about doing that now, right? So this is not something you kind of planned it. It sounds like you were called to it by God. And even and I also think it's some of these things are a calling, right? So I also felt called to mental health myself because it took a long time for me to go back to school and do it. So I can understand that and looking for a program that fits certain criteria. Now, feeling called to do this and still doing your accounting as your day job, how does that kind of work, right? You've got numbers and you've got people. How do you
Well,
balance those two things out?
Well, as we know, not to be all churchy, but that's who we are. We Christians and everything. We believe in God. I believe God never wastes anything at all about us, right? And so my numbers actually help me, my quest for numbers and my accounting. It does help in my practice because then you can always use that to teach people how to balance finances, which is one of the biggest issues that we have that brings along stress. Currently it's a battle because, to be honest, the accounting is fulfilling that the purpose of financially making me stable when
Okay.
I know truthfully that this is really purpose more than a job. This is more purpose. So accounting is a job that is helping me to live.
Got
If
it.
I could just do this full time 100% and know that I would live and be it would be what I would do
Yeah.
full time, and that's my goal essentially.
Oh, it
So
sounds
balancing is a little bit difficult
okay.
because I do work for a 9 to 5, a regular 9 to 5.
Mm,
Sometimes that 5 extends into other things. And so I'm also doing a lot of things that balancing sometimes is a lot difficult. And so this is a passion. And as you rightfully said, a God given calling. And
yeah.
so it becomes easy and it becomes natural and home when I am in this space and in this vein. So this is part of my self-care, kind of being there for people, walking them through their trauma,
Mhm.
walking them through the things that they're dealing with.
Mm.
But I would love to be doing it a little more than I do. So pray my strength, right?
I love it. And I can sense the passion. And even when you opened this and you launched, it was just an amazing launch to kind of set you
Yes.
off. It was so beautiful and so supportive of all the people you're surrounded with. And looking at back at it, and you were kind of looking at starting and doing more with this. And then you came up with these self-care Saturdays.
Yes.
So what made you kind of think of this series to begin with, right? And kind of get into this?
Well, I wanted to be able during the pandemic. Of course, a lot of people got great ideas during the pandemic, and a lot of people were experiencing being at home and having more time to do everything and kind of tapping into the skill sets that they have. And so a lot of businesses were birthed, right? I've always had the Healing Oasis, but never really promoted, never really done anything with it as far as. So a lot of my clients really came by way of people recommending, right? Other people recommending. And so I had a time of where I immersed myself personally to get a little more self care during that pandemic season to survive. In a lot of listening to podcasts with different people, reading different books, and also just being with present with me myself and knowing what's going on with me in this whole crazy world. And I think I wanted to give back. I
Mm.
saw a lot of people trying, doing the platforms and using social media for the platform. And I wanted to give back the skills that I had. I volunteered even with the city for being on call as a therapist. I did that. I did some work with my church, my local church, and my the affiliations that we belong to. And so I decided, okay, one way to give back without people feeling pressured or strained was to have a private group in Facebook that will create community and also a safe space where people can ask the questions that are plaguing them and provide an avenue where we can share information without them having to pay a whole lot of money, as well as feel secure in the things that they're feeling emotionally and all of that. And so self-care Saturdays came about with just that in mind, that we really do need to take better care of ourselves. And
Yes.
I'll start with me saying that it had to start with me, because I was not, if in hindsight, or taking that much good care of myself, right?
Mhm.
I was just extending myself into everything and all things. And if you know me, I can do multiple things, and that's what I did. I did a lot of things, but in the midst of doing a whole lot of things, I realized that I wasn't necessarily taking care of me I wasn't necessarily understanding, first of all, how to take care of me. It's like the caretaker, the doctor doesn't know how to treat
Yes.
themselves, you know? Yeah, so that's why it was birthed. And I am grateful that when I started it, I just interviewed, the first person I interviewed was a great friend of mine who was on this group and very supportive. Hi, Patricia. And very, very supportive. And it was Camilla, and she just encouraged me so much. Encouraged me so much in wanting to do this and the quest. And she just said yes. And every person who I've asked to be on the platform for free, nobody asked for any compensation, was so gracious and so willing and so, yes, I will do it. Yes, I'll do it. And that was just, I think, confirmation for me that I was in the right vein and doing the right thing. Part of what I believe God has called me to do, part of what my purpose is.
I
Yeah.
love it. It sounds like for yourself, you're looking for some way to help yourself through the time of the pandemic and figure out what's going on, right? Because we were all in that space.
Oof.
And, trying to grasp at anything that's going to help us kind of figure out what's happening in the world and ourselves in it.
Yeah.
And in that quest, you kind of thought maybe you should give this to other people too and create that community. That's beautiful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And, you kind of touched on something. We can't give if we're not filled ourselves, right? So, as you said before, with the mask, if we don't have that mask on, we're not going to be able to give it to anybody else, right?
That's right.
So, it
That's right.
sounds like you found for yourself ways of doing self care and kind of being more aware of who you are.
Yeah.
And then that kind of prompted you and encouraged you to do this for other people and
Yeah. Yeah.
Healing Oasis community on
Yes.
Facebook. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. I want to ask you some more about your Saturday series. But before we do that, tell us a bit about what you discovered in terms of your self-care routine. What helped you during that time?
Ooh, girl, I I just dabbled in everything.
What were some of those things?
Some of those things that my self-care routine has really expanded. First, it started with me realizing that even though I'm tiny, I am a little bit overweight. Weight. My
I
weight
hear
was
you.
I was becoming a little chunky. Okay, and listen, chunky people out there, that's okay. It's okay. But I think when I
Just filling out
realized
the curves. You're filling out the curves.
when I realized that it was my sleep was being affected, my general mood of who I felt I was and who I am. So I wouldn't clinically call myself depressed, but even in that moment, realizing that I was a little melancholic a lot of times, dealing with not feeling worth, like unaccomplished, not necessarily hitting the mark of where you think that you want to hit, and wearing a smile when you really didn't want to smile.
Yeah.
So I realized that I needed to I needed to check what's going on internally. And so it started really with me, like I said, during the pandemic, reading different books and even joining different groups that kind of promoted that sort of wellness, and even being asked to be on platforms that spoke about wellness. And I'm like, I'm being asked and I don't think I'm doing it. I have the book knowledge, but I'm not doing it for myself. So I started to eat a little differently, right? I would do a little smoothies and shakes and stuff and those things, and go to the gym. I started going to the gym, which is part
Okay.
of my self-care, and just literally learning the art of saying no
Oof.
without
Yes.
explanation. No
Wonderful.
is a complete sentence, okay? And being
Indeed.
able to say no, not only to individuals, but to myself,
Yeah.
right? Saying no, that this is not the time for you to do this. Maybe you could swing back around, right? And just literally looking at every aspect of my life and saying, I need balance. And
Mm.
so paying attention to when I am feeling those moments and just coming down, literally, right? Coming down. By that I mean turning off the noise, maybe just turning off, unplugging from my phone, unplugging from communication, or even like you said, Alex, earlier, reaching out and saying, hey, girls, can we go out? And having that outside experience, and also just saying to myself, I need to surround. So another thing I started doing around this time was getting back in touch with people that I'd lost
Mm.
contact with. So a couple of
Community.
my girlfriends that were a part of my life, and even my family, right? I started to say, you know what? I'm a little lopsided.
Hmm.
A lot of times is spent here and not enough here.
Yeah.
And so realizing that I needed balance and working towards that, being intentional about it, right? So getting up early at 5:30 to do my devotionals, after devotional, and some days going to pray. And I myself
Mm.
started to do my own therapy, right? I
Nice.
started with my own counselor, yes, that even kind of initiated some of those self-care. And of course, the things that we do as girls all the time, the nails, the hair,
Yeah.
making a little extra care about myself, taking
Yeah.
extra care. Some of you may or may not have noticed, and some people, want to find out who's the boo in my life. The boo in my life is me finding me again,
You have to be your first boo before you can be booed up with
Yes,
anybody
yes.
else.
Yes, Patricia, rebuilding relationships helps with self-care a lot. It does 100%. Mm-hmm. Yes,
Agreed. I love that you were intentional in reaching out and building up that support network again,
yeah,
right? Building up your own community to
yeah,
be part of your self care. Because support is so important. When we find ourselves off balance somewhere, we can have a friend kind of bring us back, right? And kind of keep us accountable to the things we said we would do for ourselves.
yes. And
So
and
I
and
love
don't you know you're one of those?
that. I know it. But we're there for each other, you know. It's
Yeah,
like
yes, yes,
sometimes
yes,
I'm like a
absolutely.
little lopsided here. It's like, okay, I need some friend time, some girl time.
Yes, yes,
That is awesome. Now you
yes,
said there's so much you said there. And I want to pick out a few things here. I'm hearing the balance, but the balance within kind of the holistically, which is what kind of even brought you to looking at the Healing Oasis. You want to do more holistic care for your
yes,
people. And
yes.
I hear that in your response,
Oh,
where you are just also for yourself looking at it in a holistic way, right? You like
yes,
spiritually, mentally, physically, going to the gym, food, being with friends, building community, relationships.
yes,
So
yes,
for yourself, you're kind of putting all of those things in balance.
yeah.
Now, what are the things that well, I'll ask this because, it's the new year and people are always about doing like gung ho about resolutions and goals and all that sort of thing. Now, the things you did last year, what are some things you're kind of taking with you into the new year? What are some things that you learned that were best for you?
Whew. So I don't do resolutions because we tend to break those.
Oh, yeah.
But I set intentional goals. At least I try to set intentional goals. And to before I answered that question, one of the things I realized is even in my quest for self-care and for finding that balance, there was always a struggle, right? Anytime you want to make a different change or change at all, period, that kind of um shifts certain, maybe relationship shifts, how you show up in different places. It kind of sometimes may create tensions.
Mm.
People may not always understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, and because it's new to them, it may also be viewed as something that is not good or not right, because you may have to say no to them or to that particular event or to this thing, because a part of my self-care also would be my finances, right? To balance even that, right? And to make
Mhm.
sure that I'm staying within, or living, as we say at my church, living within my means, right? So one of the things that I'm taking with me is protecting that balance that I've created,
Beautiful.
right? I'm taking that and being not aggressive, but assertive about the fact that I need to protect my, we say it all the time, I need to protect my peace, but I want to protect just more than my peace. I want to protect my balance, the balance that I'm creating. And I'm hoping that even in doing that,
Mhm.
that others that are part of who I am, a part of my circle or my community, can understand and value and see that I am creating a better me,
Mm.
right? One of my friends, who was also on the platform, stated all throughout the pandemic, I want to come out of this better and not bitter, right? And so that's one of the things I want to create also. It's not rejection, but sometimes you got to put distance,
Yes.
right, in order to protect your balance.
Yes,
And so
indeed.
that's what I'm taking in there. And I'm taking also, I also want to be intentional about how I show up for people, for the thing, for everything, because I realized even in being busy and doing everything and being everything and trying to be everything and trying to do everything, I would be fragmented, right? So I'd
Mm.
be here doing this, but then my head space would be over there trying to think about, oh my God, I missed this. Or I can't show up for my friend or whatever here, and I'm feeling bad because I
Yeah.
want to show up for my family. So
Yeah.
being, being intentional about showing up. So if I'm with my family, I'm with my family. If I'm
Yes.
with you guys, I'm with you guys. If I'm with my clients, I'm with my clients. Being intentional of being present. Because Alex, everything wasn't bad throughout the pandemic, but I can't remember a lot of things. Why? Because I was so all, you know what I mean, all over the place. So I
Place.
want to be present so I can feel, I can smell, I can sense, I can know. I want to be in tune. Not you're here, but you're not really
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
so that's the most important thing for me for 2023,
Okay.
protecting my balance, working still at achieving that, because every day, of course, it's an uphill battle, right? Because there'll be times that you're not balancing, because I love to watch little TV a lot, right? So sometimes sometimes that balance takes me, it takes me, and sometimes I'm overloaded. I overload myself personally, so
Yeah.
readjusting and being okay with it when I don't hit the mark. Being
That's
okay with saying, okay, you didn't catch that. You didn't get that right. Go back,
yeah.
and not just performing, but being present.
Yes. Ooh. I love it. Being present. It makes me think a bit about mindfulness,
Yeah.
how if we are present and really take in what's happening, then that memory just stays with us, right? If our mind and head is not off somewhere else, we're really there for the people in front of us.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
notice.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
notice when we're not there and they notice when
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah.
So good. And I love that. Bit better, not bitter.
Yeah.
Intentional.
I just want to acknowledge some of the people before we go on, Alex, that are here. Nikki, thank you for joining, and sharing. Dwayne Lucas, of course, thank you. No problem, no problem at all. And I think Jessica said that the song was out a little bit, but it came back. Good. Yeah, it's okay if you don't hit the mark. Now we're doing things a little bit different. We shook it up today as the first day. I am the interviewee and not the interviewer. I have my dear friend and sister Alexandra. I call her Alex, so it's hard for Alexandra to kind of roll off my mouth.
I know.
Alex, who is with me, she is a colleague and a former a mental health, licensed mental health therapist as well, and so we are good. Oh, you got it, sis. Yes.
Awesome. You do
So,
got it. You got it. And I want to go back to what you're saying about protecting your balance.
yeah.
And to me, that sounds a lot like setting boundaries and saying no, being part of it, even saying no to good things. Sounded like that was what I was hearing.
Yes. And so I can talk. I am, for lack of a better word, I'm an extremist in a sense.
Mhm.
And so if I am in, I'm all in, right? And so if I'm all in, I'm here, I'm showing up, I'm trying to
Yeah.
extend myself. I'll be here today, tomorrow here, I'm all over the, And so for me, boundaries was essential, is
Mm,
essential.
mhm.
And establishing those boundaries was difficult and still sometimes can be a little bit difficult because there are certain areas that, like I said earlier, sometimes people don't understand and they take it the wrong way when you are trying to establish some fundamental things that were missing in your life, right?
Yeah.
And you are now putting those boundaries, which essentially is just putting the brakes on things, right? Allowing yourself to experience, like I said, protection, right?
Mhm.
I like to think about boundaries as a fence, right? To let who in and who out that need to be in and who needs to be out. And
Yeah.
so for me, setting boundaries has been a challenge
Mhm.
because I've grown to saying yes,
Yeah.
even when I don't want to do it. I would say yes to a thing,
Yeah.
even when because I pride myself in a and maybe somebody's listening and who knows that kind of way, right? I pride myself in being able to do a lot and to
Yeah.
be able to accomplish a lot and to be able to be relied upon. I pride myself to be
Yeah.
reliable. I pride myself to being present for everybody else, and then at the end of the day, I'm accomplishing very little for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is still a struggle because I don't like disappointing people.
Yes.
And we have some people who are masters of a little bit of manipulation. So if they know that that's who you
We all
are,
know those people.
if they know that that's who you are and you don't like to say no, they may add to that. When you say no, they may add a little bit of a guilt trip on there. And so I have been, have to be, again, using that word intentional about saying no and not even having that no with and what I would do typically would say when I say no, I would bring an excuse for that no. So
Ah,
no, I can't make it because I have X, Y, and Z.
yeah.
So with me establishing these boundaries for my life, I want to be able to say no and be good about not having to give an explanation because guess what? Being transparent. Sometimes that explanation came as a lie because I really didn't have anything going on. I just didn't want to be there. I don't want to go. But
Yeah.
I would make an excuse about what it is I'm feeling I didn't pick up the phone because I didn't really want to talk to anyone, period.
Mhm.
But when I do finally, so establishing boundaries is you got to give yourself grace and because
Yes.
sometimes those boundaries will get blurred again because there are some people that you just don't want to disappoint, and
Yeah.
it's generally people they just don't want to disappoint them, so you give in, and then on the back end you're feeling bad about it. So yeah, for me it is about setting my boundaries and protecting those boundaries, and you don't have to be mean and nasty about it. Just, hey, that's just
Right.
where I am. This is where I am, and this is going to allow me to be a better me. And if
Yes.
you love me enough, you will allow me to be a better me.
Exactly.
you
You
know?
will allow me to grow, allow me to do this if you love me. And I love you mentioning about grace, right? To give ourselves grace. Like when you mentioned not hitting the mark, it's okay, right? We can give ourselves grace to do that. And every day is a new day to start again
Yeah.
and see
Yeah.
what we can do then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with all this, I'm going to bring it back to our Self Care Saturday series and being intentional. What is it you'd want to accomplish? Well, let's review actually.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think this series went last year? What for you was the best parts?
The best parts was, well, generally, I did not anticipate for a minute that I would get the response from the people that I got the response from.
And that's
So
all of
for
you out
every person who graced the platform, right?
there.
Camilla, Barbara Brown, Topaz with her business, the skincare, the gentleman who has and I'm so bad with names. I'm so horrible, but I would like to say thank you for every individual for the young lady who talked about her trauma and healed from her trauma. Every person that was on this platform, from Sophia, the
Mhm.
lawyer who came and taught us about, estate planning and stuff like that. From the nutritionist who was here, who taught us about, proper eating and all of that. that to me, each one of those individuals that came, I took something from each one of them and implemented it into my regime, right? So
Beautiful.
I built my self-care on those things and principles that they taught. So I started eating a little better. I
Nice.
started working out. I started making, of course, Topaz, who is Tasmane, is about natural hair care, and of course, I was always a patron of her products, but
Mhm.
taking more about my hair. I started talking.
Mm.
My skincare regime improved, right? Camilla talked earlier on about us just spending that time in nature and walking. I started taking walks on my lunch break instead of just sitting at my
Beautiful.
desk every day. Barbara talked about, candles. She loved the candles and just creating that whole environment where you can, feel like you're in a spa when you're not in a spa. So
Mm.
I burn candles. I used to burn it all the time, but now it's more
Yeah.
intentional. So out of that, to answer your question about what it is was the best part
Yeah.
was them just lending their skill set to this humble platform and allowing that to springboard other things in me and hopefully on other persons that saw and a part of it, and just the community that I
Mm.
saw happening because the questions that were asked of them, people participated by not just on the day of the self-care, but people participated by patronizing the people afterwards, right?
Beautiful.
um, yeah, so the businesses got a little bit of recognition, and that's something that I wanted because they did not, like I said, nobody asked for anything, and so I always wanted, if they're here, to get some levels of exposure for whatever it is they're doing. And I hope, and I know that some of them did, if not all, and the information is ready. So that's something that really warms my heart.
I love it. And I was able to look at your series in YouTube and watch them all. And I actually took quite a few things away from those too.
Yeah.
So I did implement a few things that I heard, and it was so wonderful to have this platform. So if any of you are on here and you have not seen the series from last year, it's there for you. So you can always go back. So thinking about last year and all these wonderful things, what's your vision then for this year? And
Whew,
there.
girl.
It's a lot. The year is just
That's the
starting.
YouTube channel. Scrolling across your screen, guys. If you don't know, you can connect there. You can always share that. Please build up the numbers for us
Yes,
so
share
that
this
we can
link.
get this going. So for the new year,
Yeah.
um, as you saw, I experienced a little bit of quick or premature, I think, sessions that we didn't complete. But for the new year, I want to be able to kind of have themes. So
Mhm,
months, certain months we celebrate certain things.
mhm.
And so love month, we want to be able to talk to some people who are married for a long time, who've been newly married, and what do they do to practice self-care. Now, remembering self-care is not only about taking care of your skin and your toes and your nails and that kind of thing.
Right.
Self-care is simply self-caring for self, and so there's some measure of self-care that has to be done within your marriage for longevity, right? And
Mhm.
so I want to tap into that, what it is. We have coming up persons who have experienced drug addiction and have overcome that, right? Who have experienced different trauma and overcome that. We have a physical therapist who's going to grace here and talk to us about how to deal with the aftermath of an accident or an incident or trauma,
Mhm.
whatever. I have my and thoughts of dealing with men and healthcare and self-care, men and self-care, because in the light of Twitch, right? We saw Twitch, a
Yes,
young man who was bright and bubbly and never expected that he would
yes,
take his life,
absolutely.
and dealing with issues that could preventative measures, right? Even boundary setting, right? We want to
Oh,
talk a
yeah.
little more about boundary setting. So we have quite a bit that is coming that is going to be relevant to the month or the time that we are in. And also, whatever it is you're asking for, we will try to deliver. So for those of you that are viewing, if there are specific things or topics you want to talk about, or you want to hear about, or you want to learn a little bit more about,
Mm.
you can feel free to, of course, call me, inbox me, or put it in the chat. This is a private group. Or if you're watching on YouTube, of course, you can can always call the number. And if you want to be a whole a guest rather, because I'm the guest today, if you want to be a guest, that's also open. Of course, we would you just do a little bit of vetting as to see if it's in alignment with the vision of what I am going for. We have a medical doctor who's going to be gracing as well to teach us how to take care of ourselves after any or any health issues. So many times we focus on mental issues, and there's health issues that lead to mental health issues. And so we want to make sure that everything that we're tapping into is quite holistic. We want to talk also, I want to tap into my brothers because they are a community that is so unseen in a way. They're unseen because they expected to be strong and brave all the time, and they of course definitely experience trauma and experience different things on a different level. And so I want to be able to speak to that, the fact that men cried, speak to the fact that men are abused, speak to the fact that men go through a lot of trauma, and don't men divorce men. They are divorced men who are scared to love again. They're men who have been broken and rejected, who don't know how to move past what
Yeah.
they've experienced. I think we built a safe place as far as women. We have sister circles. Wherever you
Yes.
turn, you can find a sister girl, a sister friend, where we are able to, to unleash whatever we are dealing with. And so we tend to be able to deal with these emotional things a little easier, a little better. And we find little things to do, like go and get your nails done and
Yeah.
just sign for a minute in your car or whatever it is. But men don't always have those avenues. And so, I want to be able to speak to that as well, coming in some of these segments. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I have some more questions, but I want to invite those who are out there to ask questions as well if they'd like to. And just throw that in the chat. Now, you have a lot that you just told us that you want to do for the self-care Saturdays. How will you mind your self-care as you're creating this series and still doing everything else with the Healing Oasis?
I know.
Tell us
So
about
that was one of the things that and being very transparent. When I started this group, I had so much in me that I wanted to do just about everything. So I put out ideas of wanting to read books that were relevant to self-care. I wanted to do, I knew we had self-care, walk and word Wednesdays where people were participating, because I wanted to feel the interaction of the community of the group. So outside of self-care Saturdays, I'm managing this group, right? And sometimes if you know anything about managing groups of people or managing groups, sometimes you feel like, oh, you're in this by yourself and it's crickets in here. So you get a little bit discouraged. So I have to admit that I think I bit off way. The first part of self-care is admitting that you need it, right? And so I feel like in my quest for balance as well, I had to realize that I bit off a little bit more than I can chew at that time. So even with this self-care Saturdays, I want to be able to stretch it out long in a way that is manageable, that even if something would have come up, that I am not struggling to meet the mark. And still, if I have to cancel, I want to be able to have grace. Even if I have to cancel a segment or two, I want to have grace for myself. I think I beat myself up last year without you guys knowing that I wasn't able to finish the year strong, so to speak. I wasn't able to fulfill some of the things that I wanted to do. And so it's just about, for me now, how I've managed to maintain my self-care and to maintain that balance is going with not just letting it loose, but going somewhat with the flow of how this plays out. So it really would depend. I'm being a little more organized upfront in terms of getting the participants before. Not waiting a week before to try and get somebody in, but getting the participants before. So lining up the guests. And I think that will alleviate a whole lot of stress. Lining up the guests that I would have and knowing what people want to hear about and feeling the response from other people. So so that for me, I would be more structured and do less. Less is more. Do less, not necessarily less segments, but definitely less that I'm trying to do within the group because I'm trying to balance every other thing outside of what I'm doing as well. And just being very present if people want to show up. And again, I invite those of you that are in this group, if you want to share something, you can feel free to share. It's that kind of platform. I have several therapists that are in here. We have several professionals that are in this group. And if you want to share something, it doesn't have to be on our self-care Saturdays, but within the group that will help us to grow together, definitely you're welcome to do that.
Wonderful. Allison, this is so great. And thank you for being so transparent in your process and putting this
Oof.
together, right? I'm sure there are others out there who want to start and do something for their community,
Yeah.
but feel overwhelmed by the amount of work and organization administration it might take to do that. And so they've already feel like defeated before they start, right?
Yeah.
So how do you kind of encourage yourself or are encouraged by others to continue going when there might be a lot happening and a lot of little pieces, as you're mentioning, to put it all together?
Well, I remember I remind myself of why my why. We hear that all the time. Every I guess coach tells you remember your why,
Right?
but truthfully, I remember my why. Why am I doing this? Am I doing this for accolades? Am I doing this because I want to feel good about me? Or and I think part of that is what caused me to kind of fizzle out in a way because I think I was expecting the accolades. I was expecting the people within the group to be more, ooh, gun ho about it. So, for me, I would remind myself of my why. And my why essentially is to give information, to provide a safe space. And I have to understand that even if it is two persons that their lives are being changed by my posts, by the encouragement that it is two persons, even if it's one, it is one, and that's I'm fulfilling my purpose. So my why essentially is to make a change and bring people to awareness about their wellness and their mental health and their overall self-care. And so if one person is affected or infected, I would be good. So reminding myself that I'm not doing this for the masses
Yeah.
necessarily, but I'm doing this because this is what I'm part of my purpose to do. And also, just having people like yourself within my community and inviting you to hold me accountable,
Mm,
inviting persons to say, hey, I didn't see anything from you this week, are you doing anything? And
right.
encouraging, getting that support. It's so I know a lot of us who are strong, we tend to walk around as though we're superman and women.
Mhm.
But we do need that affirmation.
Oh,
We do need it.
yes.
And I'm telling you guys,
Yes.
sometimes we need that affirmation to say, hey, you're doing a good job. Hey, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
I went out with Nikki, one of our former student classmates. And, it was so good to catch up with her and to hear her from her mouth the
Yeah.
things that she's watching me do and
Moms
saying and
love.
hearing her say, I'm proud of you, right? Simple
Yeah.
as that. I'm proud of you. So getting those inner circle people, if you will, that will be your cheerleaders. And
I
so
love
when
it.
those moments come when you feel as though you're not hitting your mark, realizing that I have people who are quote unquote depending on me and quote unquote people who are supporting me. And
Yes.
so remembering my why,
Okay.
getting in touch with one of my chair, my rah 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 chair sisters,
Yes.
brothers, and understanding that I this is purpose. This is purpose. I
Yes.
have to fulfill. Somebody is waiting for me to show up,
I love
even though
it.
I don't know it.
And half, like most part of life, is showing up, right?
Yeah,
Being
it's hard.
it is hard. It's not easy, but that's if we can just do that, then we've already taken a big step, right? We have a few
Yeah.
minutes left. I want to encourage those who are watching to ask any questions if you'd like, or put in the chat things you'd like to see as part of the Self Care Saturday series.
Yes, yes, yes.
So
Thank you
you,
to my sister who is watching and Claudia. Thank you guys for being here. We hope that something that is happening would jump out at you. Of course, it's different. Um, I can't help but say it's a little bit different. I am in the hot seat. So if there are any questions you guys have for me, if you want to get to know me a little bit better or know my process or my this is a great time and a great way. And I thought it was best to do this because sometimes we, the people that are doing things, look
Mm.
like we are the masters of it, and
Ooh,
we are
yeah,
most certainly not. We are students just like everybody else.
absolutely,
And so I'm
absolutely.
learning about self-care as I do self-care. I am learning about having boundaries. Us counselors, I often tell
Oh,
people
yeah,
counselors need a counselor. We need therapists
absolutely.
too because we are dealing with our own personal issues, and sometimes we carrying some of other people as well.
Oh,
So
yes,
yeah.
this is true.
Hmm.
This is true.
So come on, ask away and let us know what it is you want to talk. I know a lot of people want to talk about, of course, depression is the number one thing, anxiety and those things. And we're gonna get there because that's not the be all and end all, guys. There are a lot of
Mm.
things that drive those things that we can take care of ourselves to prevent those things from happening or for us experiencing. We're not shortchanging people who really do have some chemical imbalances, of course. We're not saying that these aren't real issues, but there are fundamentally, once you start taking care of yourself, your moods tend to shift, right, Alex? Would you agree?
Indeed, indeed. And I actually wanted to ask you something about your themes. You just mentioned something, right? It's not just about depression, anxiety. There's other things that are there. So how do you think about the themes and the things you want to bring out to the community?
I think a lot of times you kind of feel the pulse of what's happening around you, right?
Mhm.
And so right now and during throughout the pandemic, I think a lot of us are dealing with some measure of post-traumatic stress, right? A lot of us have experienced it, gone through this pandemic, and we don't want to give the pandemic more weight than it is. But truth be told, that it was weighty for a lot of people. A lot of people experience loss, so depression, anxiety is big, right? A lot of people didn't have outlets during
Yeah.
that time and still don't, right?
Yeah.
So those the things that I see here and experience even within my own practice, my own personal practice, the general ideas of conversations that we would have,
Yeah.
things that are happening around in our communities, right, and in the news, right? We can those things kind of give me an idea as what can be generally addressed
Okay.
to the degree where if that person fits within that general scheme,
Yeah.
they would have an opportunity to identify themselves there and then seek further help. Because these Saturdays aren't meant to necessarily be counseling sessions.
Right.
There are informational sessions, right? There are sessions that ought to make us aware that, oh, okay, this is something that I am, and not to identify that you feel like you're bad or less than, but to
Mhm.
identify it within you, to know that there's somebody out there that may be experiencing that as well, and there is help.
Hmm.
And there is an opportunity for me to be better because I can take the reins and give it and run with that. One of
Yeah.
the things I want to deal with as well, which is part of my dissertation in school, is domestic violence, and I want to deal with the general sense because a lot of times we think domestic violence is just hitting and all that kind of thing,
True.
but
And
it is
it's
so
not.
much bigger than that, and there's so much psychological perpetration going on, right?
Mm.
So yeah, so those things drive what, and just generally kind of feeling the heart of where I am as an
Mm.
individual
Mm.
as well. If I'm feeling this way, I think I like to think that there is somebody out there that might
Yeah.
feel the same way as well. Yeah.
It's the sense that you're not alone in this, right? That you might feel like I'm the only one experiencing this who has ever had this, but then having these informational sessions, you can become aware that, wait,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is not so, this is like common. Others are feeling this too.
Yeah.
It seems like you want to give out information so folks can become more aware of
Yeah.
what's happening within them, within their families, maybe. And
Yeah.
then maybe that might prompt them to get the help that they might
Yes.
need or to seek more from there.
Yes. Yes. And to be in an environment where it's easy to ask a question,
Yeah.
it's easy to be able, and that's where the group came in, right, as opposed to the healing oasis, because you may not want to come to me for counseling per se because of our relationship, right? It might be a little bit strange for
Yeah.
your bestie or your person that you might be going to church with, or your person, to come to
Right.
you, the professional for, and a lot of times our friends don't necessarily see that side of us,
Yeah.
that professional side, and it's easier for them to go to someone else. But we can give some information that can give them the opportunity to say, okay, I think I fit there, and to seek, like you said, a
Mhm.
little more, information or help or assistance,
Yeah.
right? And I also want to promote that wellness is not, you're not, you're not crazy if you experience some, you're not crazy if you're experiencing some moments of lows and highs or whatever. You're not crazy if your mind is racing. You're not crazy if you're being anxious about different things. You're not crazy if you're experiencing lack of boundary issues or boundary issues, right? You're not crazy at all. We all have something that we can all work on.
Yes,
All.
indeed. Indeed.
And this is a place where I want to bring that awareness. Somebody said, oh, Claudia said, for me, the pandemic was a blessing. Why? Because I
Mhm.
was able to share the love of God together with the team. Is there not a cause? Okay, great. Claudia, you could tell us more about that one day. I would love to hear more about what that team is. There is there not a cause? Is there not a cause? Wow, that's amazing. I would love to hear a little bit more about that, and we'll welcome you to share with us.
Awesome.
We can
Awesome.
tell you how you can get in touch with us as well to share anything that you may have that may want. And this group is a great place to share outside. This is the only thing in the group that is shared publicly.
Yeah.
These self-care Saturdays are the only things that are shared on our YouTube channel. Everything else is within the group, and it's a private group. You either have to be a part of the group. You obviously have to be a part of the group to see it
Mhm.
and to share. So whatever you share in here is just subjected to the group for the most part.
How can they share that or find you to be part of the group on Facebook?
Um, so you That's a great question, Alex. Why you put me on the spot? The name of the group is the Healing Oasis Wellness Circle. And if you just Google, not Google, but in Facebook, you look for that, the Healing Oasis Wellness. Wait, THO Wellness Circle. See what I'm saying? Crazy.
Ah,
THO Wellness Circle. If you look for that, you could find a group. Anybody could find a group by its
wonderful.
name. If you look on my personal page, which I believe is kind of almost public, which is Allison Watley, you can find information because I have it listed there. If you go to YouTube channel, the YouTube channel is up. There's information about how you can get there. And we also have a mailing list, email list that you can be a part of to get information about if you want to be a part of anything that's happening, because we do have, outside of this group, the Healing Oasis plan to do some great things for this year. I've been charged. I remember you just reminded me about the opening session that we've had, the launching session that we had for the
Yes.
business, which was excellent. And I've always wanted to
Was.
do a different segment of that. And, many of you were very there in the beginning, and you're here today. So it's great. It's great, 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 great.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you, Nikki.
I see some more
Oh,
comments in the
wow.
chat.
Yeah, Dwayne Lucas said, I didn't understand self care until this group. Oh, thank you so much, Lucas. Thank you so much.
That's
That's my brother. And he has an awesome, awesome, awesome testimony. And he is going to share with us on
awesome.
this very platform of how he is able to come over his trauma and deal and get to self care.
So
Yes.
wonderful. We've got some great stuff coming up. Are there any last
Woo.
comments or things you want to put out there? We have our time that's coming to a close, but let us know some last words from Miss Allison Watley.
Whew. Well, I am so grateful for each and every one of you for trusting me, for being a part of this group. I know that It's not the norm. We are not busy. We are not overloaded with information. But it is my intent to be able to be present for you as much as I can. I want to encourage us in this quest in this 2023, just not to make resolutions, but to set some goals for yourself, goals that will make you a better person, that will make you a better woman, a better man, a better individual, a better wife if you're a wife, a better husband if you're a husband, and just to get tap into your inner person, get to know you, get to understand what make you function, so that when you are not functioning the way that you should be, you would recognize it. One of the biggest challenges for us to recognize when we are not going the way we are supposed to go, because we are so much on autopilot. I want to encourage us on this journey to be intentional about everything that you're doing, whether that is being a part of a church community, whether it's being a part of a school community, whether it is completing that degree, whether it is with your friends, just to be intentional, be present, and enjoy this life that God has given to us. It's
Amen.
very short. There's so many people dying, Alex, that I want us rather to enjoy those moments and be able to celebrate the small things. Don't wait for only the big things to celebrate.
Nope.
Listen, you got through
Fleeting.
the week,
Life is fleeting. So
celebrate your little milestones, celebrate
every
the
day if
moments
you
that you've
can.
accomplished. Say that
Mhm.
again.
Every day.
Every day, celebrate yourself. Celebrate yourself and the things that you've accomplished. If you set to lose 2 pounds and you lost one, celebrate the fact that you lost 1 pound. If you set to be in that size 6 and you're in a size 8, celebrate that. Too
Yeah.
many times we defeat the whole purpose,
Yes.
and we change our mentality because we don't celebrate what we are doing or what we have accomplished. Don't wait for anybody else to do it. Some people cannot celebrate you because they don't have the
Yes.
ability or the bandwidth to do it. And stop expecting people to be your cheerleader when they don't have the equipment
Yes.
to do that.
Exactly.
Balance
Awesome.
your expectations of others, and that will be a good step in the door, by balancing that expectation.
Mm.
And listen, guys, tell me what you want to see, and we make it happen.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Ali. This has been such a pleasure and honor for me to
Yes.
interview you for your Healing Oasis Wellness Circle and Self Care
Yes.
Saturdays. And I think it's going to be a wonderful year.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much. And guys, we will be here on the platform. If you are in crisis of any kind, if you seeking you have additional questions that you can ask here, anything about your mental health, your wellness, anything of that nature, you can always call that number 347-674-9253. If I'm not, I have a wealth of other counselors that if you don't want to be comfortable being with me, I can always recommend somebody. But I would encourage any of us, all of us, to at least one time seek some help by doing some talk therapy. Seek some help by doing it. You don't have to wait till you're in crisis to deal with it. There's so much that we need to unpack, and there's no greater way to help with somebody who is equipped to do that, and who is sensitive culturally, who is sensitive spiritually as well. So yeah, my friend load is big, and you can definitely call me if you don't want to. Like I said, if you don't want to sit with me, definitely I can recommend someone. But I want you to continue to tune in. I want you to continue to be a part of this. And I thank you so much, Miss Alex, for being my host today and for interviewing me. Thank you for being your friend, for your friendship. And thank you for being one of my cheerleaders and my support system.
Always, always.
You have been excellent as part of my self-care. Get you some friends like me. And half of it will be over, half of your battle will be done. But again, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. If there aren't any more questions, we will be back here hopefully on the third Saturday. If you don't see me, it's because we just just didn't get it done. We
And that's
practicing
okay.
grace. We are practicing grace,
Yay.
but certainly before the time comes, you will certainly know if you if you're going to have a segment or not, right? We're not going to keep you in the dark. Join our mailing list, do everything you can to stay connected and participate in the group. For you YouTubers out there, share our YouTube channel.
Yes,
Let's build this YouTube channel.
that's
There's
right.
so much that's in me. There's so much people that are connected to me that have great things to share, and we are just going to share freely. So we thank you again for joining us. Thank you for being a part of the Healing Oasis Wellness Circle, THO Wellness Circle. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, Nikki, Casey. Thank you, Dwayne, Lucas. Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you, everyone, and those that might be viewing on YouTube. We love you. Happy New Year. This
Yes,
is going to be one of the greatest years because why? We are going to make it that, right? Thank
that's
you,
right.
Patricia. Dwayne Lucas said, "Be blessed and live life on purpose." Yes, that's gonna be great. Ingrid, thank you so much. We're gonna stay here all day saying thank you, but our time is well spent. So see you next time. We love you.
Take care.
Goodbye.